Hi, I'm Jaskiran Arora, and it's my pleasure and honor to be with a person who is a seasoned academician, a prolific writer and a reader, and an institutional builder. Professor Shyam Menon, the Vice Chancellor, BML Munjal University. Sir, it's my pleasure and honor to be with you today.
Thank you, Jaskiran. Pleasure is mine.
Professor Menon, if universities were to become that catalysts for change, what has to happen in the classrooms?
That's a very important question that you raised. I think if university is not merely in the business of providing assembly line workers, but on the contrary, university is in the business of creating change makers. I would say that we must start with the initial assumption that universities are not institutions which know all the answers. Universities, on the contrary, are institutions which hold questions, which are in the business of posing questions, sometimes important questions, fundamental questions, even uncomfortable questions. So those questions need to be constantly posed, and there has to be a process of inquiry and exploration in pursuance with finding answers to those questions. And questioning is responsible questioning, not trying to just question for the sake of question, but responsibly question by raising alternative hypotheses, alternative ways of assembling the same knowledge, or questioning fundamentals of the knowledge, questioning evidences based on which this knowledge purports to have been constructed. So those kinds of questioning becomes very important, and every student is encouraged to ask these questions, and thereby they also get the sense that they are also actively participating in this enterprise. They are not just passively sitting and receiving whatever comes their way. This actually goes a long way in developing confidence and affirming their own esteem about themselves. And these inquiry and exploration are a co-learning process. It's not that some know more than others. But of course, the faculty is an experienced explorer or experienced inquirer. The students are aspirant explorer, aspirant inquirer, aspirant learner. If learning is a process of inquiry and exploration, and then I think we flatten the hierarchy that exists between the teachers and students. It becomes a co-learning community constantly addressing questions of various kinds. In so doing, we connect things which are already known with things which are yet to be known, with conceptual and theoretical understandings which we may already have discovered, with the kinds of things which we now come across, in which some of this existing theoretical understandings may get transformed and demolished and changed and reconstructed. So that's the process which the university should actually be involved in. A good university is a venue for that. So their research and teaching merge together. The teaching is not about, it's like, if I may put it this way, that it's the frontiers of knowledge is where the research is located. And that is constantly advancing. And through debates and discussions and contradictory findings and evidences that are coming, and we have to keep reconciling with those contradictory findings and evidence and arguments to expand knowledge. So the real higher education happens at that level, where the students and the teachers merge their statuses and become co-learners in this exploration. Because we are a select enterprise in a country like India, there are many others. For every one student who gets to participate in higher education, there are 3 others of the same age group who are outside. So the connectedness with the larger society is inbuilt into this. I'm not pursuing a set of questions which are so esoteric, and it is only about my curiosity, my salvation. The individual oriented salvation is not the model we are working towards. As I said a little earlier, I am dreaming of a time when people aspire to achieve positions in which it's not a zero-sum game, in which their achievement is at the cost of others' underachievement. On the contrary, their achievement is along with the achievement of others. So the connectedness, the organic connection becomes a very important aspect. Through all these things, what are we developing the students? That we are actually developing in the students the ability to be responsible leaders. Because whether we like it or not, higher education system creates a select set of pieces. Among thousands of people in our population, there will be a few graduates, a few university graduates. So those few university graduates obviously will have a added responsibility in working for the larger good.
So I understand if the universities are to become spaces of catalysts, like promoting that change to happen, students sitting passively in a physical layout of a classroom receiving like passive listeners is not what would make the desired needle movement, but probably active learning which has experience, critical inquiry, and immersion into the subject of discipline, which could be law, which could be societies, which could be industry, which could be social development sector, woven, brought into the classrooms. And for that to happen, the classrooms have to expand beyond the physical classroom.
And also mutually permeable in terms of the outer shell of the teaching or learning space will have to be loosely, it has to be open and it has to be seamless with the larger environment. Then only it will work. If you insulate our learning spaces from outside, this will never work. Even physically, even I'm talking psychologically. Yeah.
Right. So, Professor Menon, that is when we are talking of cognitive level of learning. So, and when we talk of socio-emotional element of development in the students, you so often say that mentoring and pastoral care is very core to the universities. In so doing, when a teacher after a PhD is coming into the ecosystem and expected to mentor a student, he or she may not have that desired skill sets. So why do you believe that it is important for them to have at least an open mindset over and above? I do not know if you believe that, or maybe infused into how they teach. So how mentoring and pastoral care should be owned as a core responsibility?
So higher education becomes a very important critical element in the life, not for the individuals alone, but for the whole family or the whole community. Because every higher educated graduate is a savior for their little ecosystem, right? Whether it be family or kins or others, because that's a role model, even in terms of physical and economic help. So it's a lot of pressure that people have for accessing higher education, and the whole regimentation of the child's life around the coaching industry in order to prepare the student, young person to get into this. All these put together leaves the student highly stressed. That's number one. Number two, this whole in this how do you put it, the funnel function, that the narrow funnel function that this entrance examination gatekeeping performs ensures that only about a small percentage of students who actually aspire to get into higher education eventually make it to higher education. And that too, those who make it to higher education, they are again distributed among a whole hierarchy of institutions. So every one of the students, the majority of the students come with a sense of having lost already. So there, I think we must start with this understanding. Those of us who have chosen, among various things we could have done in life, we have chosen to be a teacher. The teacher's job is not just to try and whatever one knows is in terms of books and other things. All that one needs to do is to just pour it out onto the students, and then it's up to them to whether they do it or not. That is not the kind of transaction we are in for. We are actually, when we say that we have chosen a teacher's job, teacher's profession, we are actually signed up for living a life with young people. Mentoring them, not just by the teachers, but also by the senior students. Arrangement for creating a surrogate familial or other kinds of spaces within the university so that they do not feel suddenly taken out of, like a fish taken out of water. Instead, they have the coping mechanism to thrive through this. A mentoring system becomes very important. It's not just a teacher-student bond to be created, but a teacher becomes a catalyst and a facilitator for a healthy peer relationship to be established. Junior to senior, same level, and so on.
So teaching in a university is not just teaching the discipline, but it is infusing the emotional support into the students, and at the same time bringing in a interdisciplinary mindset. And for that to happen, the teachers here at BMU, I believe, are encouraged to bring in different threads of viewpoints, perspectives into their disciplines, and thus the focus on interdisciplinarity. So maybe if you could just help us know, and the new joinees who would be watching this, why should they go beyond their disciplines and then wholeheartedly adopt a more interdisciplinary mindset of teaching their own disciplines and maybe going beyond that?
So we must keep this in mind, whether I'm teaching history or whether I'm teaching physics or whether I'm teaching electronics. I think I probably need to keep this in mind, that ultimately this is for developing the person of the student in terms of becoming a thinking person, intelligent person who is able to sift through falsehood and truths and be able to select what is correct and formulate his judgments on solid foundations and become a professional and a citizen and, on these solid bases. So when we have that clarity, then we realize that I think in the styles, in the students, the learners' minds, all these disciplines get merged. And that merging is very important. I think we need to have this connectedness established to them very clearly. And that can happen only when we ourselves are acquainted with the different perspectives. So let's make no mistakes. These universities are not merely a socializing space for students alone. It is also a socializing space for faculty. Looking back as a faculty for 40 years plus in a university system, I can give you umpteen examples of instances where I have actually learned and grown because I got acquainted with alternative perspectives, alternative disciplinary backgrounds. I got the chance to converse and work with people who are from other disciplines, other backgrounds, other kinds of training they have gone through. And we become better historians or better anthropologists or better whatever we are. We are much less informed in our own disciplines if we do not know other perspectives. It's important for us to have this multidisciplinary perspective which is thriving in an institution, because that is the kind of ecosystem in which our own deepening our understanding of our respective disciplines through research and teaching can happen in a much more healthy fashion. If this larger context is not there, our mastering or our ability to answer questions which are cardinal to, which are canonical to our own disciplines, will get that diminished. We get enriched through this multiple. I'll give you a good example. If you are a historian of ancient India, you should be concerned about genomics and genetics and things like that, because those are kinds of researches which has actually now happened by people who are disciplinarians in a different field, whose findings have really enriched your understanding of ancient India. Because where is our DNA? What is our DNA material like? What kind of different stocks in Indian population today? Where have they really been where are they from, or who have biologically and genetically contributed to who they are. I think these are also questions which people from very different discipline is actually trying to find out. I can give these kinds of interfaces between many disciplines of this kind.
Very, very, very well said. And I think to people who might be into academics, maybe very recently, or maybe over the years, this perspective, I'm sure, is something to be held very close to, chewed, reflected, and actioned upon. Thank you so much. And Professor Menon, before we call it a day, one last question. 40 years of experience in academics is a long journey. And people who are just entering into academics, right? They are nervous if they know their discipline or not, whether they can connect with the students or not, and then whether their students are understanding or not, and then maybe committing themselves to the lifelong commitment of making them enthused learners for life. So as you reflect back upon your last 40 years, from that initial nervous academics to somebody to have become an institutional builder. So what is that one eureka moment or that point of inflection in your personal life where you think that transition from grappling with your discipline to the student centricity and the commitment to the profession came along?
To begin with, it was like, for me, it was like a performativity. I was trying to perform, and it was more like appreciating a certain performance which one made in the classroom. It took some time for me to realize that I think a communication is not a complete process unless there is a receptivity from the other side also. To the extent that you try and put across is effective only to the extent that somebody else is able to gather it and make sense in their own life world. If I speak using context and analogies and metaphors which are inaccessible to the learner, and I probably am not able to get across, I'm only putting forth a show. So this, I think, realization came gradually. Then I realized that I think there is enormous heterogeneity in a large classroom, particularly in a classroom like in India. So the ones whom we really need to really focus on are the ones who are in the margins, who can just drop off, who can just get marginalized, alienated, and therefore even drop out of higher education campus. If at all, we are able to give a little more of empathy in terms of understanding where they stand and how they look at it and what sense it makes, that whatever is being presented, what sense it makes to them. If you are able to do that, that's enough to keep them motivated to do their own. They are ready to do a lot of work, but they need that little nudge. They need that little hand-holding. They need that little validation and affirmation that their efforts are well made and they are part of this larger group and we value them. So that's a very important aspect. And I was lucky to work in many different university settings. I worked in a unitary university of a very vibrant nature. That's where I started my career. Then I worked in a national open university when we were just beginning that enterprise of creating the national distance education open learning system. And there we realized that we went with enthusiasm that we are creating a democratic higher education model where large numbers of people in the margins of India are able to participate in higher education because distance education and open learning is making that possible. So that was the excitement with which we participated in it. I worked in an older university, an old university with a lot of idealism, lot of excellence, working very conscious about its role to the margins, in Central Institute of Education, Delhi University. I got an opportunity of working with a team and putting together a new university. And then for 10 years, we worked towards the creation of a new university. We all worked as a team. And now I am in a private university. This is a new experience for me. I'm trying to make sense of this entire thing. So the one thing that has kept me going is that I was successful not to have a certain smugness. About I never got the sense that I know it all, because I knew that every day there's something new that I'm learning. So this the constant process of learning and putting myself as primarily as a learner is what has actually made me grow and move forward. And also I worked in organizations in university which are by definition a learning organization. A university is not a well set of assembly lines with all preset ideas of how things are to happen. A good university is one which constantly interrogates, constantly engages in reflective practice, and constantly try to redefine and make mid-course corrections in the way they progress. So the learning is inbuilt, not in the central process that the university tries to create, namely the learning teaching process, but the organization as a whole, which is constantly learning. So that learning organization, I was lucky to spend a whole life in organizations which are learning organizations.
Thank you so very much, Professor Menon. This has been like a masterclass for me. I've always loved speaking to you. And to all the viewers, I think one key takeaway from this discussion: please stay curious, stay hungry, stay committed to the cause of making the change, committed to the cause of nurturing change makers to lead with purpose.